This presentation is supported by our regional water supplier, Tarrant Regional Water District. TRWD maintains 4 area lakes and pipelines needed to provide surface water to local water treatment plants so they can clean it to meet drinking water standards for our communities. They also work with many cities in Tarrant County, such as Fort Worth, Arlington, and Mansfield, to provide water conservation programs for the community. Conservation is an important water supply strategy to help meet the needs of a growing population. There are currently 2.3 million people in Tarrant County, and this is expected to double over the next 50 years. This is why TRWD supports many programs that help save water through outdoor watering and gardening education. At SaveTarrantWater.com, you can sign up for free weekly watering advice custom to your location. If you are a resident of Tarrant County, you can sign up for a free sprinkler system checkup where a licensed irrigator comes to your home and provides a comprehensive evaluation of your system with recommendations to reduce water waste. There is also an event calendar where you can find important information about future classes and workshops. TRWD also partners with organizations like Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service and the Tarrant County Master Gardeners to provide educational programs just like this one. Be sure to check out SaveTarrantWater.com and sign up for their free services. All right, so as Dr. Dick said, my name is Loretta Bailey, and I love gardening, as you can see. I have a passion for it, and I teach it. I'm around a lot of good people. At the end of this presentation, I will give you the information for Tarrant County Master Gardening, so you guys can give us a call. Any questions you have, it is a free service. I'll give you the phone number and email address, and you guys can give us a call. If you have any plant ailments, diseases, weird insect, you have questions about gardening in general, vegetable gardening, you name it, give us a call and we will help you out. So let's go ahead and get started. Today's class will be about landscape basics. This is a picture of my yard several years ago. It doesn't even look like this anymore. Looking at this picture, you know, a lot of good memories. The background is still there. The structure is still there, like the skeleton. The live oaks are still there. I don't know if you could see my pointer, but here's a live oak. Here's another one. And there's a purpose for this. I thought this out, and there is a 2-story house right behind the second live oak. And I didn't want to be in my backyard and have somebody from their second story staring at me. And I wanted the privacy. So it was kind of a well thought out plan to plant an evergreen variety tree instead of deciduous. Those of you who may not know what deciduous means, that just means the leaves fall off the plant in the wintertime. So these maintain their leaves year round. So I like that. And now these trees, if you look at them now, they're kind of, they look like they're touching. They're staggered, so they're not really touching, but it's a green screen in the back. So whenever you think about your landscape, be sure you have a plan. Are you trying to hide something that's not aesthetically pleasing? Are you trying to highlight architecture? Hopefully you want it to be low maintenance, water-wise, because as you know, we have a lot of drought, a lot of heat, a lot of extreme conditions here. Let me talk about this. I've got some Mexican feathergrass growing along the back that I propagated over the years. Well, over the years and over time, your landscape changes, okay? It's always a work in progress. You're never really finished, and I love that. I can always change things out, move things. Well, what happened here was after enjoying this Mexican feathergrass in the back, which loves full sun, and it flows in the air, in the wind, back and forth. I like that movement when I'm looking out in my yard. Well, when those live oaks matured a little bit more, the Mexican feathergrass got a little shaded out. So I yanked all the Mexican feathergrass out, and I ended up planting a shade-tolerant ground cover instead, and I moved the Mexican feathergrass to our more sunny area. So you'll see with time, 5 years, 10 years, you might think, well, that area was sunny, now it's more shady, so let me make a change. Or maybe, you know, your backyard hasn't evolved, and that's fine too. But just keep those things in mind. And my plan was always for this to happen. So I was ready to pull up that Mexican feather grass after about 10 years. And I'm just loving the way it looks now. So let's continue here. So when planning your landscape, you need to look around, whether it's your front yard or your backyard. Look at your space. What's going on? Is it shady, sunny? Is it both? You know, if you're lucky enough, you've got both. In my backyard, I primarily have full sun, but thanks to those live oaks now, after about 15 years, I finally have some shade, and it just makes me so happy to work under those trees because it was blistering hot for a long, long time because I bought this house and I had no trees. It was just a field. So I'm very thankful for that shade now. Work with what you have. Okay. I see so many, even my students and people in the public, they will ask me, what can I do under my trees? The grass won't grow. I've had somebody come out and replant sod. Well, that's a waste of money. You're going to continue to lose that battle because nature will win. Okay. If you've got a sloped area and water just keeps draining and causing erosion and you add more soil, I'm sorry, but you're going to continue to lose that battle. Water is very, very powerful. You've got to look at the situation you have. If you have big oak trees, okay, if you're blessed with big oak trees, maybe you need a shady landscape. That is what you need. Maybe you need just a mulched flower bed underneath, maybe with some boulders, a bench, a couple of hostas or ferns. You see what I'm saying? Work with what you have. Don't try to chop up your trees and continue to trim them, the bottom areas, to try to bring in more sun. You're always going to fight nature. You're going to waste money, frustration, tears. So work with what you have. Very, very important. Do you have a water source nearby? If you're planning on putting in a flower bed and you choose thirsty plants, meaning plants that aren't drought tolerant, not native, they're not from here, then you're probably going to deal with needing a lot of water. So hopefully you don't make that decision. I will talk about some drought tolerant plants as we go along. And also at the very end, I'm going to show you where to find a plant shopping list. So you can go to the store and say, hey, I need to buy these plants. Evergreens, ground covers, you name it. They're on these websites that I will share with you. And also back on the water source nearby. If you don't have a water source, that's great too. Maybe you can put in a xeriscape garden, and that's where you really don't even need any water. Those plants can survive on rainwater alone after they become established. Established means you water them, they get a decent root system, then they're on their own. Maintenance needs. I have broken this rule so many times just because I'm a gardening fanatic, but I put in too many flower beds. And sometimes I kick myself when I'm working and why did I do this? But then I remember I love this so much. I love it, love it. But then remember, you need to mulch the area. You'll need to weed the area. So think about all that too before you start creating your flower beds or planning your landscape. Leave open spaces in your landscape. What I mean by that is sometimes we make the mistake of putting in too much, okay? Have you been in someone's house before where there's not any open space on the counter, on their coffee table? It's just so cluttered. We do that in our yards. You know, I'm so guilty of doing that. We go to the Tarrant County Master Gardener meetings. We have a meeting every month, and if they have free bulbs, free plants, I cannot say no. But the good thing is I have designated a part of my yard that I call my free garden or freebie garden, and that's where all those things go. So there's a purpose, a place, and I'm not just scattering everything all over the place and ending up with what looks like a junkyard or something like that. And by the way, before we dive in deeper, I don't want to offend anybody. I'm not here to judge. Everybody has their own decorating sense or gardening sense, opinions. So hopefully I don't offend anybody. I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to tell you my opinion on this. And, you know, you may not like my design. That is great. Everybody's so different. You might like more of a cottagey garden. You may like more of a butterfly or wildflower garden, and that's great too. Okay, I love all these different opinions and styles. So you do you. Continue on your path. I'm just teaching you how to arrange everything, how to keep things kind of organized, how to plan so that you can save money and blood, sweat, and tears, avoid all the bad things. But the open spaces, as a gardener, you always want a little bit of space so that you can go to the store and get another plant and add it to your little collection. And also, leaving a little open space allows the eye to have like a resting moment. And I'll show you pictures of what I mean by that. Allow plenty of space for mature size of plants, okay? Especially if you decide to buy some large evergreens. Don't cramp them together. You need a focal point. We'll talk about all these points. Highlight the architecture of the house, or you may want to camouflage less than desirable areas. Maybe you think your house is ugly. I don't know. Maybe you don't like the pitch of the house, or you think the front door is ugly. You can use plants to deflect attention from those areas, or to bring people's eyes to your front door if you think your front door is lovely. Like I mentioned earlier, choose native plants when possible. You've probably heard this before if you've been in the gardening world for a while, but the reason we push this, the reason I push this is because it's water wise. You will find your water bill going down, less maintenance for you, less watering, better for the environment. They are drought tolerant. They thrive in our heat, low maintenance. You do not have to use fertilizers or chemicals. Huge bonus. Native wildlife friendly. And the biggest thing is easier on you. If you go out and buy a bunch of non-native hydrangeas, for instance, mop heads and things like that, you know, those want a little more shade. They want a little more water. So you're going to be out there putting more effort into it. And then when we have our drought season in the middle of summer, you're just like, why did I do this? I don't want to be a slave to my yard. I want to enjoy it. So that's why I tell my students and the public, choose from this native list. If you can't find native choices or you don't like anything in the native category, there are so many adapted plants. Adapted plants are plants that aren't from here, but they do very well here. One example is rosemary, the herb. That works very well in full sun as a shrub here, as an evergreen shrub. You can trim it, you can round it off, you can do anything with it, really. So that's just one example. All right, this class is not about lasagna gardening. It's also known as sheet mulching, so sheet mulch, but you can see there I wrote sheet mulch to kill grass. This is a little area, and you know, a little bit about me. I tried to kill grass in my yard. It's high maintenance, it needs mowing, chemicals to look decent, so you're not, you know, embarrassed in the city with your neighbors. You don't have the worst yard, is what I'm saying, and overtaken by weeds. I just try to get rid of grass little by little. So I use a technique called sheet mulching. Some people call it lasagna gardening. Basically, it is smothering and killing your grass with cardboard, layers of cardboard. You have to overlap. I teach a class on that too, but like I said, today is not the day for that. We're going to talk about landscape design. But take a look at this. I'm going to talk about grouping plants, how to arrange them. But all these are drought tolerant and native plants. I've got abelias here. I've got lamb's ear here and here. These are all Mexican feather grasses in the back. And I've got some yuccas in the back behind the hammock that you can't see. The desert willow is over here. This is early spring, so it hasn't leafed out yet. But I actually got rid of this umbrella because it's shaded enough now. Sunny yet shady in the evenings when I need it. So I don't need that umbrella anymore. So I like the look even better now. But this area is about 30 feet by 50 feet. And I killed all that Bermuda grass by using sheet mulch technique. You do have to keep an eye on it though. You can't just lay it out there and put your mulch on top. You've got to make sure there aren't any escapee grasses coming through and so forth. But do look into that, please, so you can organically get rid of grass. So you don't have to use toxic chemicals like glyphosate and things like that. All right, landscape design tips. Here is a home that we worked on. Originally, this home, it's not finished, by the way. It was a work in progress, but this flower bed, it's a brand new home. This flower bed on the left here, if you see the walkway, they were limited to just that little 1 foot flower bed. There's not much you can plant in there, just one little row. And then over here on the right, there just wasn't a lot going on. So we used the lasagna garden technique and actually extended the flower bed and gave it a really nice curvy flow in the front so that they can add on more plants in the future. So when you start, consider balance. Use an imaginary line and study both sides. Okay, this can also apply to your backyard, not just the front of the house. But what we're going to do in this situation is put an imaginary line right down the middle of this front door. Look at the left side, look at the right side. You probably want to balance it out. You don't want to just put a bunch of large shrubs on the right side and a bunch of dinky small ones on the left, because the house is going to look lopsided. Not all homes have a door in the very middle. Sometimes it's a little to the right or left. Some I've even seen on the side of the house in zero lot line homes. So look at the architecture of your house. Think about where you want to draw the eye. Consider the scale of the plants to the house. Okay, this is not a huge home. It's about a small to medium-sized home. We don't want to block all the windows by putting in a bunch of Nellie R. Stevens shrubs or huge shrubs. Always purchase plants in odd numbers. It makes it easier on you to place them because you can place them in a more triangular shape when you have an odd number. So never go out and buy 2, 4, 6. You really want to get odd numbers because think about how you place them. Let's say you only get 3 flowers as an example. You can put 1 kind of in the middle closer to you and then 2 kind of framing them in the back. Think about if you get 4, how will you arrange them? It's just much more difficult to do that. So always buy them in odd numbers. Always put your tall plants in the back, okay? And those are going to be usually your foundation shrubs and hopefully evergreen varieties. I'll show you as we move along. Medium-sized plants will need to be in the middle. So you're staggering, okay? And then little shorties up front, ground covers, maybe annual flowers, perennials, anything up front. Mentioned this earlier, don't block windows with large trees and shrubs. What we ended up doing to this house is adding an annual vine right here on this little blank wall. It was actually a purple bean hyacinth, and it grew on a little trellis. And what's great about that is that it's just a 1-year vine. You cut it down at the end of the year and it's gone. It doesn't attach to the house or anything like that. She wanted a Japanese maple for some color, so we put a red one right here to soften up this corner. And as you can see here, the home builder put in some yaupons here, but there's nothing going on over here. So to balance that, we added some dwarf yaupons on this side. And some other things. We put in some juniper ground covers up front and some trailing yellow lantana to pop against those. Consider incorporating hardscape. Patios, yes, they can be expensive. So not necessarily a patio. Maybe you can just put a walkway through the area, maybe some rocks. If you do something like this that's pictured here, make sure you put some weed barrier underneath because rocks have a tendency to sink over time. And, you know, after 5 years, you're going to wonder, where did my rocks go? Well, with rain and just climate, they end up sinking. So make sure you put a little bit of weed barrier underneath it, then put your rocks on top. Don't plant huge shrubs near your foundation. If you talk to anybody who works in the foundation repair business, they will tell you that is one of the biggest culprits is large tree roots, shrub roots. They suck up all the water, have huge chunky roots, and that's just not great for a foundation. So use best judgment when you start planting those near your house. Okay. What will the plant, tree, or shrub look like during different times of the year? Don't go out and get all deciduous varieties because you're going to end up with sticks in the middle of winter and go, where's my landscape? So that's important to dot little evergreen shrubs or even trees into your landscape so that you've got that structure, you've got something going on even in winter months. Have a plan. That is the biggest thing to save money, frustration. You need to have a plan, sketch it out. Drive around neighborhoods. There is an app called iNaturalist, the letter I, Naturalist. It's free. You can take a picture of a plant and find out what it is or an insect. So I highly recommend that app. Look online, Pinterest, Google. Make sure you are looking in our zone, our area here in North Texas. Make sure it's not a landscape that you found online in Hawaii or New York, because obviously those plants probably won't make it here and they will struggle. But a lot of times when people show me an old picture of what they had in Kentucky or New York, or they found a picture online that inspired them, I can recommend similar looking shrubs and plants that are adapted or native here that they can apply to their own yard. Not the same plant, but something very similar, you know? All right, steps to create a landscape. Number one, soil test. I'm a broken record for this. You need to get a soil test, dig up some soil, mail it off to Texas A&M University. It's not expensive, it's $12. You do have to pay shipping to get it to them, but it's a very small investment, guys, to find out what's going on. I can't tell you how many times the public and my students have told me, I got my test done, and guess what? They said that phosphorus is too high. You know, there's NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. That middle number, way too high. Texas A&M told us not to apply any phosphorus for 5 years. That's huge. Not 5 seasons, 5 years. There's so much built up in the soil. And then you start to have decline in plant health. You start to realize, hey, my vegetable garden's not doing as good as I thought it was going to do. So get this soil test done. There's the website for it, soiltesting.tamu.edu. Do that first. 2, site selection. Outline the area with rope, chalk line, spray paint, whatever you have, even a hose, okay? So basically snake it out there. Create where you think the edging will go, the very edge of your new flower bed or your new landscape, and think about it for a few days. I like to do that before I do my lasagna gardening, before I create a new flower bed. I like to just drink my coffee, go out there every morning and look at it from different angles to make sure, is that the size I want? Is that the shape I want? Do I want to make it a little bigger? Or what was I thinking? Why did I make it so big? Let me make it a little smaller. So you can change your mind, give it a week or two and continue playing with the shape. Site prep is the next step. So if you've got things laying around, you might need to remove them. You might need to remove some rocks out of the soil. You may need to lasagna garden, like I like to do, or sheet mulch. Then you're going to add your hardscape, meaning your boulders, patios, anything like that. I like to use a lot of boulders, like this picture here. You'll see boulders like this kind of all over my yard. First of all, you can't kill them, and they look good in the summertime and wintertime when a lot of deciduous plants have kind of bit the dust and they're waiting to come back out the following year. Your rock is still there and it's beautiful to look at. The next step is soil prep. By this time, if it's, taken a couple of weeks, you will get your soil test results back and you'll know what to apply or what not to apply to make your plants happy, to make them thrive, or your vegetables to produce better for you. Then you install your plants, okay? Then you mulch. You have to mulch here in North Texas. You've got to preserve that moisture for them. And then, of course, water to establish. Even xeriscape plants, guys, like the cactus and plants like that, they need some time to establish. Even hardy shrubs like dwarf yaupons that are so tough, they're tough as nails. If there's a problem spot that people can't grow a shrub, I like to recommend dwarf yaupons. They're just so tough, but you still have to kind of baby them at the beginning to allow them to get their feet in the soil. Let their roots establish. And then after that, you can back off. But sometimes that can take months. So when you're looking at your yard, front yard, backyard, whatever, survey it. Okay. What is this yard? This is, I would say, a full sun yard. Okay. Obviously, you're not going to put a fern garden right in the middle because those poor plants will fry and die. Now, the outskirts, the edges of this yard underneath the canopy of these trees, yeah, I'd say those are shady or maybe part sun, depending on where the sun goes up and down in this yard. But this is a sunny yard. This yard is a shady yard. Obviously, you're not going to plant a cactus garden here. You're going to have lanky looking cacti. It's just not going to be happy. I see a lot of hosta varieties planted in here, some liriope, shade tolerant plants. So you need to work with what you have. This house, I'd say this is a shady with some dappled sun. Okay, the plants look pretty happy. So, they're doing something right here. But with the trees, you're not going to get a whole lot of sun. So maybe a part sun situation even. Let's talk about maintenance requirements, okay? This picture always makes me laugh here on the left. And if I'm hurting your feelings, I'm sorry, but I don't know why you guys keep doing this, why you keep shearing your shrubs like that. 1990s wants their shrub back. That is old school. It's out of style. Yes, even landscapes can be out of fashion. But the problem with this is that's not what that plant is supposed to look like. This is a native shrub called Texas sage. There are many different ones now. Some are a little more pink, some are a little more green, a little more purple. They flower after a good rain, and you cannot trick them. They're smart about that. Very drought tolerant. They like full sun. But when you are shearing them, like on the left here, that's asking for more maintenance and yard time. Because if one little sprig starts growing and it's 3 to 4 inches taller than everything else, you've got to go back out there and trim it again. So don't do that to yourself. The shrub on the right, I like to let my shrubs grow like that naturally. And I am very meticulous. I like things a certain way. I like my yard clean. I like to see mulch in between each plant. Very, very picky, yet I don't like to shear my plants. First of all, every time you shear, you're creating a cut or an injury on that plant and allowing pathogens, bacteria, anything to enter the plant. You're stressing out the plant. There is a time and place for it. If you want to produce more flowers, if you want to cut things down for the fall, for spring flush, yes. But in a situation like this, be easy on yourself and the plant. If it bothers you, maybe just cut this little tip off here. Maybe just trim the ones that are really sticking out. That's what I do. I never shear any of my shrubs unless it's intentional where I want to cut the size down drastically. That's when I'll do it. But I don't do that on a daily basis. Definitely let's kind of appreciate the natural form of your shrubs and easier on you. Something like this, I would leave this to the botanic gardens. They've got a staff that works on their land all the time. This is just asking for more maintenance. So I would definitely not recommend doing this, but you might like this, and that's fine too. I'm just trying to make your life a little easier. Okay, here's the natural form of plants. There's some salvias there. Look at how everything's just kind of, natural form. It's just beautiful. You can go and trim. I call it selective trimming. Just get your little pruning shears and nip this if something's sticking out. But It makes it lower maintenance when you're not out there just always shearing your plants. All right, choose a theme and stick to it, please. I've looked at some yards and I'm like, I'm just not sure what they're trying to go for. We we've all changed our minds too. You know, I'm not knocking anyone, but if you want a visually appealing, serene yard that is attractive to most people's eyes, you want to stick to a theme. You might like a Southwestern style. You might like Asian inspired. A lot of times people like their backyard to reflect what's inside of their house. Usually it matches. If you're a minimalist, your yard's probably minimal too. Very simple. If you clutter your house, you might have a cluttered backyard. But like I said, that's up to you. On the left-hand side here, I would say this is maybe like a xeriscape or southwestern type yard, whatever you want to call it. Would it look okay if I stuck a Japanese maple in there? Probably not. Okay. The right side, I would say that's kind of a cottagey, whimsical type yard. If you stuck a palm tree in the middle of that, it wouldn't go well. But I see that all the time where people just go to the store, they don't have a plan, and oh, that's pretty, let me buy it. And then you end up regretting it or thinking, you know, what did I do? So have a plan and a theme and stick to it. When you go to the store and see these shrubs in these pots, they look so cute, right? Well, they can turn into giant size shrubs. This is a Nellie R. Stevens. And it's not even done growing. This is a 6-foot man height right here. Those can grow 25 feet tall. So you definitely don't want to put a bunch of those near your foundation because remember what I said, that can cause foundation damage later on. It's just too much. So read the plant tags. Look at the shopping lists, okay, on the websites that I'm going to give you at the end. Look at the size. Does it fit your plan? If it's too big, nix it because you don't want to be out there trimming all the time and dealing with the hassle of keeping this shrub the size that you want it to be when it wants to be gigantic. All right, like I said, if this is your house, I'm sorry. Hopefully it's not anyone's house here. I just took it off the internet to show you an example of what you really shouldn't do. Some people might look at this and say, oh, it's beautiful. And it does have its beautiful points, but you shouldn't block your windows or desirable architecture. Let's look at this. See this shrub right here? It's blocking that whole window. So it's making the house dark. And for you guys like me, you know, sunny windows are valuable to me. I would never want to block anything like that. Ideally, they should have put this shrub right here on this blank wall. This shrub over here is next to the driveway and near the garage. So I imagine when the person gets out of their car and opens the door, they might be brushing across it. It's just misplaced. This pine tree really should have been placed more towards the corner of the house and maybe a little further away because of the roots. But instead, they planted it right in front of the window here. It looks like they've got a little lookout area. Also, look at how these shrubs are trimmed. They're all kind of rounded off, high maintenance. They're just always going to be out there trimming, trimming, trimming. Wrong scale and high maintenance trimming requirement. I cannot stress that enough. Okay, we've all done it. Just buy the right size shrub, get dwarfed varieties. Sometimes there are dwarf varieties of what you like. Make sure you read those plant tags. A new landscape is going to look a little dinky. You're going to probably not be satisfied with it thinking, I need to put more in there. But remember, they fill in, give it some time. Some people with an unlimited budget, they will go ahead and crowd the plants out and then pull up every other one over time or cut them down. But if you're on a budget, I mean, who wants to waste money? Be patient, go ahead and plant where they need to be and let them fill in over time. This is a house in South Lake and they were on a budget, beautiful house, but you know, they just didn't want to spend a lot on the yard. So this flower bed was full of weeds and grass that was cleaned out. And they wanted to keep what they had that was healthy because, again, on a budget. So the crepe myrtle, this is off season, so it hasn't leafed out yet. They kept their dwarf yaupons. So these will fill in, okay? And then on this house here, we looked at this house earlier. This was added later, and there's some juniper ground covers, some little lantana. It looks stinky now, but it flourished and filled in over time. So think about that. Don't just, spend extra money on trying to fill all the gaps in. Give your plants some space. Foundation plants, very critical. This is actually the most important part of your landscape plan. The reason is these are the workhorse or the skeleton of your landscape. I know a lot of people, they look at these and go, oh, they're ugly, no flowers. Guys, flowers are here today and tomorrow. Most plants don't flower all year. We have spring flowering plants and we have summer flowering plants and then fall flowering plants. Normally, we don't have a plant that flowers all year. Vinca is a good annual that kind of flowers spring through first frost, but there are very few plants like that. Lantana likes warm weather, so it'll start to flower as it gets hotter. So any little, there's not a perfect plant. But these foundation plants, what I mean by that, it doesn't mean put them up against your foundation. That's not what that means. Foundation is like a platform or the skeleton or the framing of your landscape. These guys are the workhorses that will be there all year long. When your other deciduous plants go to sleep for the winter, they'll be back next year, of course, but these guys will always be there to say, hey, look, there's a landscape here. Okay. It creates structure in your design. It creates a neutral backdrop and winter interest. Always choose evergreen varieties. There are several, honestly, not a whole lot to choose from that you might want to put in the very backdrop corners of your landscape. I like to kind of dot these in my landscape in the very back. Burford holly or needlepoint holly, Nellie R. Stevens, but that gets really, really big, so be careful. We also have a dwarf yaupon, some more Burford hollies here. Those are all going to be really good choices. Foundation shrubs, let's continue on that. So here are two homes as an example. So these right here, these yaupons, there's one back here, one here, and one here. And then that's probably a Burford holly. I'm not quite positive. Then we've got more green shrubs here. And I'm going to guess there's probably one back here behind these caladiums. These caladiums, the sweet potato vine, the annual flowers, those are all going to croak at the end of the year. But these workhorses back here are going to remain and give you that structure throughout the year. You're not just going to have a mulched flower bed all year with sticks, okay? Let's look at this flower bed. We've got some hollies in the back too. We've got some loropetalums scattered throughout. Loropetalums are more of a semi-evergreen in this area, but some people call them evergreen, but most of the ones I've seen do lose part of their leaves. But the begonias here, those will be gone. Their little annual flowers, those will all be gone. But guess what? The hollies, the loropetalums, all these hollies in the back, they will continue to entertain and be the skeleton throughout the year. Look at this tip at the bottom. Plan for a maximum of 3 different varieties of shrubs. Okay, don't get too many. Okay, leave room for your perennial flowers and other varieties, other pops of color. If you put too many shrubs in there, first of all, you're probably going to run out of space and it starts to look cluttered. Okay, so 3 is best. You can go with 1 if you want. 2 would be more interesting. 3 would be nice. You could probably even push it to 4 or even 5 if you do it right. But I try to tell people, and I see most success when I tell people limit it to 3 shrubs, 3 evergreen shrubs if you can. 3 types of shrubs, not just 3 shrubs, 3 different varieties of shrubs, but duplicate those. All right, what will this look like in the winter? I don't see any evergreens in there. They are all perennials, okay? And some people might look at this and say, oh, beautiful. Everybody has their own taste. But the problem is that in the wintertime, that tree, everything is going to lose its leaves and you're going to end up with sticks in the woodier shrubs in the back. And up here, you're not going to have anything going on, just a flower, just a mulched bed. So I like to dot dwarf yaupons or something like this here and there to continue to give it that structure. Remember, less is more, okay? Avoid overplanting. Too much variety causes a distracting appearance. Your eyes don't know where to focus. You're looking here or there, you don't know where to look. Mass planting one type of plant creates a bigger statement. When you're at the Botanic Gardens, whether the Dallas Arboretum, Fort Worth Botanic Garden, or any professionally landscaped area like a shopping center, you'll see a bunch of flowers planted in mass, and your eye goes straight to it. It catches your eye, and you're like, wow, that's pretty. I don't know what it is, but that's what our eyes like. We like to see mass plantings. We like to see kind of a nice grouping. Something like this might cause distraction. You're just like, okay, you can't appreciate one plant. There's just too much going on. John Brooks, I really like him. He has passed on, but he was a landscape designer. Look what he said. He said, take out half of what you have put in and double up on the rest. What he means by that is, let's say you have 10 different shrubs, 10 different varieties of shrubs. Okay. So I'm just going to bring up a couple. Let's say you've got Nandina, dwarf yaupon, roses, Loropetalum. Okay. Blah, 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 blah. You've got 10 different types going on. He said, remove half of those varieties and double up on just the 5 that you have. Okay. So he's saying that most landscapers, most people make the mistake of putting in too much variety. Okay. So are you guys kind of getting the sense here? We need to kind of stick with a few plants and mass plant for better visual appeal. But like I said, there's no wrong way. Everybody has their own way to do things, but you know, that's what our eyes like. Let's talk about focal point. Okay, when you look at this picture, where did your eye go? Straight to that big vase, probably, this big brown vase. If I removed that vase, where would your eyes have gone? Some of you might say that tree because it's big. What if I removed that tree and the vase? I'm thinking you might have said the variegated sedge here because it's lighter colored. It popped in front of the darker background. If I removed all of those, your eye might have gone straight to the house because it's so brightly colored. Okay, everybody's different though, you know? So think about a focal point. It can be a plant, it can be a bench, it could be a stone, it could be a Japanese maple, it could be your front door, it can be anything. So plan around that. You don't want too many focal points either because it causes a chaotic scene. This is kind of an extreme example, but it's clear to see. The focal point here is probably this fountain. Your eyes go straight to it, even though these pink, beautiful flowers are right here. Maybe some of you looked at the flowers first. Maybe that was your focal point. But most of you probably said the fountain. If I got rid of the fountain, it might have been these pink flowers that your eyes were drawn to. If I got rid of the pink flowers, it may have been these ferns and so on. So think about your focal point. Sketch your plan, look at pictures, think about what you want to draw attention to. Okay, where is the focal point in this? Okay, again, I'm not here to judge, but I'm just letting you know, my opinion. This is a little chaotic, and it is an extreme example. Somebody put a lot of tender love and care in this. They spent a lot of money. The problem is our eyes just don't know where to go. Some of you may have said this one right here, maybe these topiary shrubs, but they've got kind of one of everything. Okay, they've got this shrub, this shrub, this shrub, this one. These are all different shrubs. there's just a lot going on. Look, this one still has the plant tag on it. There's just so much going on. So it's better to get a couple of specimens or a thing or two and make that the focal point. And then your supporting actresses or actors among that. I would not do this. It's just too much. It's chaotic. Okay, here's a one of everything. Here's some one of everything gardens. I have sections like this that I purposely put aside for my freebie bulbs or divisions that I've acquired from other people, but they're thought out. I put the tall in the back, medium size in the middle, and then the short flowers up in the front. But in this situation here, you know, it's great for a butterfly garden and all that, but you probably don't want your whole yard to look like this because it's hard for people to appreciate all the different plants. Your eyes just can't handle it. What feeling does this evoke? I know some of you probably have plants that you brought in, so your living room probably looks like this. I have downsized my plants that need to be brought in over the years because of, you know, not this bad, but you know what I mean. We have a bathroom, or, you know, in my case, it's my game room. It looks like a jungle right now with all these plants. But, you know, this is just too chaotic. So maybe it's time to gift some of those plants away. Maybe it's time to sell it off. I know some of you are hating me right now. In this situation here, it's a wonderful pollinator garden, lovely. But what might have made it a little better is maybe cutting into it, maybe leaving half of it, 2/3 of it, a third of it, whatever you feel like, and making the front row here, the street view, a short ground cover, or maybe a grass that you don't have to mow. Okay, maybe like a Loretta or something like that in the very front, or a native like horse herb, or my goodness, I can't think right now. But you get what I'm saying. Some kind of short ground cover in the front, maybe like a walking path with some flagstones across it. But it's hard to appreciate all that's going on because there's just so much going on. There's no definition, no lines. But there's really no wrong way to garden. If you like this, that's fine too. Here's an example with Mexican feathergrass. It's here, it's here, it's here, it's here, all wrapped all around the house. That's kind of their foundation plant in the situation. And see how it kind of hugs and frames the house? It's almost like a rug that you put underneath your dining table. It kind of it centers it, it grounds it. Okay. So you don't have to just put shrubs around your whole house. It can be something like this. Mexican feathergrass turns green when it's cooler, and then in the summertime it turns blonde, but it's got year-round interest. I never ever cut mine. I don't like that look. I just let them grow, and then I actually brush them with an old brush, and I pull out any loose hairs or loose blades and stick them in the compost. But I never cut them. I don't like that look. Some grasses you do have to cut down no later than February because the spring flush, you know, they need room to grow out and get rid of those old blades of those old leaves. But Mexican feathergrass, you can just let it be. But look how they have their flowers dotted here, again here, again here. They've echoed that pattern, repeated the pattern. So it brings everything together that way. Create unity, okay, by restricting the variety of plants. Duplicate and repeat the same plants. Here's an older home with beautiful shade. They've planted impatiens from left all the way to right, okay? They've got their workhorse green, evergreen shrubs in the back working for them, so you'll see those all year. But in the winter, of course, these will be gone. They've got their caladiums, but they didn't just stop here. They continued it on the other side to create balance in this home. So think about different ways you can do that, but see how they created unity by duplicating the same plant over and over. It creates more of a wow factor, more of a good visual curb appeal. Incorporate Incorporate open spaces to rest your eyes and create calmness. Okay, that's what I mean by those open spaces, the importance of that. It might be a walking path. It might just be a small piece of lawn. Imagine if this whole landscape was like this little plant forest. It might look a little chaotic, but look how calming this is with just this gravel pathway. And look, he echoed again. Yellow, yellow. Oop, Echo, stop. I've got a Alexa and named her Echo, and she thinks I'm talking to her. And look, purple, 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 purple. It's dotted everywhere. That same repetition, that color echo, it continues. He didn't just use it here. Vary the height of your plants as you are designing your landscape. If they didn't put this big juniper here, your eyes might have gone straight to this fence. Maybe they didn't want that fence to be the highlight of their landscape. So they varied it. They've got these tall guys, and this is considered, even this shorter one here is taller than the front one. So it's a taller backdrop. There's that one, and then all these other ones. Here are your medium guys. Here, 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 throughout. And then your short are these little flowers up here. Okay, looks like petunias. And then over here, vary the height. Notice they didn't put a big old shrub right in the middle of this window. They put it on this blank wall to soften that up. And then this dwarf magnolia is on the corner to soften up that corner and also to double up as a little bit of a privacy screen. Because the end of this house is about right here and the tree extends out. Okay. And then we've got your medium right here. Okay, these workhorse evergreen shrubs, and then over here. And then we've got the short, the little antenna up in the front. Okay, we're layering tall in the back, medium in the middle, short in the front. Color and texture continuity brings unity. I talked about color echo earlier. This is a situation, it's beautiful. Might be a little too much for some people. I think it looks pretty. Everybody has their own opinions on this, but look what they did. They planted some Johnny jump ups that are in that purple hue here, verbena up here, more verbena. There's more back here and right here. They continued that purple color echo to bring everything together, to unify the whole space. There's an evergreen shrub here, one right here, one right here. It's kind of like a triangular pattern. Okay, they didn't just plant one. They actually are bringing the space together by continuing that texture. All the little ground covers up here, yes, they're different, but they all have a fine little leaf and kind of a ground hugging short appearance. It brings those all together. And then they've, of course, repeated the color guard yuccas. So basically duplicate. Don't just go out and buy one plant. You can have a specimen plant where you just have one, but it's best to go ahead and buy multiples or propagate. I love to propagate perennial grasses, start things from seeds, cuttings, air layering. You know, I only bought 4 Mexican feather grasses. Everything else was propagated over time. Just have some patience and then you can save money by even making your own plants, doing plant swaps. Here's another color continuity example. Kind of hard to see. I'm sorry about the picture quality. Daylilies here, yellow pop of color, yellow pop of color. Here again. And over there on the other side, I don't know if you can see those, but they're all over to unify everything, make everything look cohesive and put together. Mass planting and duplication, I can't stress this enough. It brings that wow factor to your landscape. Here, they've got some lavender color and then a darker purple. They're all in the same family. And then that pop of yellow throughout. And here, they've got masses of perennials planted together. And then also on the other side, they didn't just stop here. It's also on the other side to bring everything together with these taller specimens in the back and then the shorter ones up here in the front. So layer your landscape. If you get stuck Okay, when you're planning your landscape, drawing it out, this is an aerial view of your shrubs, or it could be your flowers. It's better to have a natural and better flow using drifts instead of rows. This left side is more of an artificial look. They look like toy soldiers lined up for battle, right? And that's okay too. There's a time and a place for it. But if you're stuck, don't really know how to arrange everything, I like to use drifts like this. I feel like it visually looks better. It kind of mimics nature. Like if you're out in Alaska or any kind of forest, you don't typically see trees lined up in a row. At a tree farm, you would, but not in nature. So I try to follow nature's pattern. So I much prefer this. Also, when you buy a tree, shrub, plant, it'll tell you how far apart to plant it. And a lot of people get confused by this. It'll say plant 12 inches apart or plant 6 feet apart. That doesn't mean plant it from the edge to the next plant's edge 6 feet apart. It means on center. So the middle of that plant or shrub, that's where you start. And then you measure to the next middle section of the next plant or shrub. So it needs to be 6 feet apart from middle to middle of that plant. That's how you plant the distance apart. It's on center. That's what it's called. Okay, more examples of drift planting. So just kind of an erratic shape. And then you can plant maybe some little annuals here, pop them in this little corner, maybe on this edge. You've got a much better flow, more pleasing to the eye, and not so structured and artificial. Usually we recommend not planting plants too close to allow a little bit of air circulation and sunlight. But sometimes, you know, if you've got some perennials or even some shrubs, they kind of look good grouped together. Just don't make it a huge habit of doing this all the time. Sketch your plant. It doesn't have to be this elaborate or professional looking. Mine never looked like this. You can use graph paper. I like to just use a spiral with just plain white paper, and I just sketch it out. And sometimes it's aerial, but usually it's the frontal view of what everything's going to look like. So I get a good idea. Another thing that I like to use if you don't want to go out and buy landscape software is just take a picture of the front of your house or your backyard or your spot that you want to re-landscape, and then put it in Paint on your computer. It's a free app it's an old app that's on your computer. Put it on there and you can superimpose shrubs, or you can doodle it in to kind of get a visual of what it's going to look like, and then save it. And you can save several different copies of different designs that way, free. You can also find phone apps. iPhone, I don't know about Android, but I know iPhone has a lot of doodle type apps that you can do that on. Add contrast with color and or texture. Here on the left-hand side, this agave is going to be the focal point. And they've got some verbena growing along here. That's going to trail down. They've got some natural shaped rocks, some cut rocks, and we've got some evergreens in the back. So this is going to kind of make this pop more, make the agave pop more. Over here on the right-hand side, I love flagstones, just loose flagstones to put as stepping stones that lead to my compost, that lead to another corner of the house. It draws your attention and makes people want to go there. What's back there? Where is that leading me to? And it allows you a stepping area so that you know where to step. And also you won't end up, what do you call it? I can't think of the word right now. Compacting your soil is what I'm trying to say, where you don't need to. You step where you need to. So I love this. I like using stepping stones leading to my vegetable garden because I'm always going to it to check on it, to pick off of it. In this situation here, right now, the focal point is at waterfall, but I bet in season when this Japanese maple buds out, leaves out, I bet that's the focal point. But, you know, change up your textures. If you're bored, you don't have to spend a whole lot of money. Even on Facebook, a lot of times I'll see people say, you've got to act quick, but they'll say free flagstone or free bricks, come and get it. First come, first serve. Leaf variation, the texture, shape, size, color. I'm more of that kind of person. I'm not a flower person, although I have my pollinator gardens too. I like more of the texture. The lamb's ear has a really good fuzzy texture that make people want to come and touch it because it's soft and furry. The Mexican feathergrass has movement in your yard, so it's not static. People always look at my Mexican feathergrass because I grow it in big masses, and when the wind blows, it looks like blonde hair just going through the wind. They'll say, "What is that?" And they want to go out there and look at it. I like that. I like that movement. Flowers are today. Flowers on any plant don't last. They will regenerate and grow more, but for the most part, flowers aren't all year. All right, we are almost to the end. I hope you guys are still hanging with me and not falling asleep or anything. When you're doing your annuals or perennials, I have made the mistake of looking out in my backyard. I got a little crazy when I first moved into this home 14 years ago, and the soil was so different from where I came from. I wanted to kind of test out, what's going to do well here. So I bought this plant, that plant, this plant, kind of one of each and planted it. Oh my goodness. I looked outside. It was chaos. I couldn't stand the red and the blue. It clashed so badly that I had to pull it up and move it to the side of the yard. I had to spread them apart. For the most part, to be visually appealing, you need to stick to either a warm palette. See this line right here? Stick to all warm hues if you can. Your perennials should all match that color family, or cool. However, you can mix and match if you want pop or attention. That works too. Create pop by using colors that are opposite. So basically like this chartreuse and this purple, they go well together, even though they're in two different families, the warm and the cool. They create attention. They demand your attention. I'll show you an example after this slide. Create harmony by planting colors that are right next to each other on the wheel. Okay, dark purple, lighter purple, this blue, different shades of yellow, yellow and orange. Okay, those are going to create harmony. I'll show you an example of that too. Simple, minimal, and clean. Okay, stick to the same hue. Maybe you just want a white perennial garden. Maybe you want a red perennial garden. Stick to the same. Too many colors do create chaos for the eyes. Your eyes don't know how to appreciate that. Here is that example of popping opposite colors. Look at the wheel here. Got our chartreuse and then the purple over here. Pop, okay? It demands attention. It's loud. Harmonious colors, okay? These are all over here on this side. Lastly, we're going to talk about landscape edging. And then after this, I will show you those websites to get your plant shopping list so you can get started on your landscape design. Landscape edging can definitely take away or benefit or add to your landscape design. I'll show you how. This is great if you like this style, but see how it's kind of cold and it demands attention. It takes away from the landscape. Did your eyes go straight to that edging? For me, it did. I don't like loud edging. If you spend all that time and money on your plants, I would put a more subdued edging in, okay, so that people's eyes can be drawn to your beautiful plants and not to the concrete cold edging. But you might like this. It's up to you. This is pretty, okay, but where did your eyes go? To the beautiful landscape or to the big boulders? I feel like it's a little too much. They're a little too, the scale is a little bit off. Maybe if they just stuck to these smaller ones, it would have been okay. But we've got this guy, just a lot going on. And secondarily, your eyes went to the flowers and the landscape. Maybe they didn't. Okay, the edging choice here definitely demands your attention. Now this one, I don't know about your opinion, but I feel like it adds to. This is a minimalist, drought tolerant, modern landscape. And I feel like this copper edging really adds to the look, but we're all different. Some people might hate it. I like it. All right, this one, it's not too loud, I don't think. The only problem with these concreted edgings and flower bed walls is that these oaks will tear through this in no time. They're not permanent. You're going to see cracks. So I don't recommend these. It's beautiful. They're expensive. Not a great choice long term. I've never seen one that held together over time. The shifts in our soil and our clay soil and so forth, they just end up cracking no matter what. I feel like they did a really good job dotting the evergreens in here. Look at this. Here, 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 here. So even in the winter time, okay, when their annual flowers are gone, and I think that's a boulder right there. And right here, you still have that structure, okay? If you're on a budget, I know a lot of people who are retired and they don't have thousands of dollars to spend on edging and plants. So I say propagate, share with friends. This is a free edging option. I love metal edging, I'm not gonna lie, but metal edging should not, be this far out of the ground. You should hide it, dig a trench and then bury it down into the soil. You should only see a little peekaboo 1 inch amount of metal edging. That's what it's supposed to do. You're supposed to keep roots out, grass roots out of your flower bed. But a lot of people just put it right on top. That's not the way to install metal edging. But I like the fact that it stays and it kind of patinas, it kind of rusts over time. I like that look. But everybody's different. But what you do is you just go straight down, and I'll show you a graphic to show you what it actually looks like. But look, it's nice and clean, free. Metal edging used to be $8.99 for an 8-foot section, and now it's almost $30. So inflation is real. It has definitely hit the gardening market too. So any way I can save money, I do it. And I try to pass that on. So this is what it looks like. Trench cut edging, that free edging option, you basically cut down. You can use a flat shovel. You can use an edging tool. You go straight down 4 to 6 inches. And this is your flower bed. This is the mulch right here. Okay, so I hope that's clear. So basically your grass, it doesn't want to fight and be in a dry area because right here the roots will dry out. So it's going to want to move that way. Not to say that Bermuda and other grasses won't end up down here. That could still happen. Any flower bed with edging or not, the roots can go underneath and infiltrate your flower beds. But doing this, the grass wants to stay on this side instead of lurking over here where the roots will be dried out. So this is a really good, cost-efficient way to create an edged, clean look for your new flower bed. For your edging, make sure you don't create too many jagged edges or anything that's going to be hard to mow. If you're mowing, you don't want to make a lot of curves, sharp curves or turns. Think about that as you're planning your natural, hopefully natural shaped edge. It can be straight, but usually a little soft curve is visually appealing. Here's one of the websites that I promised you to create a shopping list. You can see pictures of the plants. It's texassmartscape.com, txsmartscape.com. Here's the website right here, txsmartscape.com. And look right here, you can go to the search plant database. You can look up tree. You can look up ground cover, evergreen, shrub, and it'll tell you which plants do really well here. Okay, not in Hawaii, not in Kentucky, our climate right here. So this is very specific information that will help you in your yard here in North Texas. And they also give you some good landscape design tools. You can go look at some demonstration gardens. Tarrant County Master Gardening, we have our own demonstration garden located at 1801 Circle Drive, if you guys ever want to come out and take a look. Here's another great website from Texas A&M, AgriLife Extension. It's the Earthkind landscaping website. So you type in your zip code or your region. We are in region B right here. And you can type in your selections, drop down menu. And if you're looking for a ground cover for under that tree that keeps killing your grass, it will recommend some good plants that have done very well here. Native and adapted plants. All right, if you guys have any questions, I'm here to help you. If you think of it after this presentation is over, like I said, please give us a call. Here's the number, 884-1944. You can also email us at taranmg@ag.tamu.edu. Send us pictures of your area, your problem area. Be as descriptive as you can. Let us know what's going on, how the problem got there, what you think it is, and also the plants, what plants you're having issues with. Look at this area right here. This is next to my pool. And a lot of these plants here they're deciduous, the perennials. These Hamlin grasses have turned yellow now. This was middle of summer, I believe. So these I just cut down. So it's pretty much bald. You just see little mounds of where they used to be. They'll come right back in the spring. I went ahead and cut down these lamb's ears because they started to look kind of end of year, retiring. Adagio grass I still have going just because I like the plumes and the yellow leaves, but I will cut those down soon. The Mexican bush sage that has these beautiful purple flowers, I've cut that down to the ground already. The cherry laurel is an evergreen small tree or shrub that will hold its leaves all year. So that's great. I've got my little evergreen backdrop. The desert willow in the back here has lost all its leaves, so it's bald and bare right now, but still has beautiful form. But I have my workhorses. I've got this cherry laurel, and they're kind of hidden here, but look, my little dwarf yaupon here. I also have one over here that you can't see. So among my mulch, I've got these green guys and then this little green mini tree and my stones to still represent my landscape in the winter months. I still have visual interest instead of just bare bones, a mulched flower bed. So try to keep that in mind as you design your landscape. One more thing over here, there's a green red yucca back here that maintains its green color all year. So if you guys have any questions, I am done. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Loretta. And they should be able to unmute and ask their questions directly or put in that Q&A.
Yeah, we have some in the Q&A. First question, what techniques do you use to draw the eye, which I'm assuming means create a focal point?
Yes. Well, most of the time it's going to be what you like. If there's an area of your house, if you've got a really nice front door that you want to draw attention to, you might want to put some colorful shrubs on both sides, something that'll draw attention. Okay, maybe like sunshine ligustrum or something like that. It's a yellow shrub, it needs sun, but something like that to draw attention to that area.
Okay. Is there any type of master gardener or gardener program that can certify xeriscaping for getting approval from an HOA? Evidently, some of the HOAs don't like the xeriscape look.
Other master gardeners pipe in here if you want to, but I believe if you reach out to Native Plant Society of Texas, npsot.org, there might be some information there on certifying your yard as a wildlife habitat or something similar. Teresa, Nancy, Dick, do you guys know specifics on that?
I don't. I mean, I would think, you have to, there's an amendment where they're really supposed to allow using natives and things like that. And to me, it's a kind of an overstretch for an HOA to be restricting somebody, like that. But
yeah, especially today's drought and water conservation efforts, that really surprises me that they might be doing something like that.
Yeah.
If anything, I've just heard of so many people kind of promoting that, but I do hear of HOAs that are a little bit strict. They want your yard to look lush and tropical. They just haven't heard the news yet.
Well, we've got some in my neighborhood that are nothing but pea gravel with some flower beds intermixed here and there with color. Because they've lost their grass so many times, they're tired of replanting.
Yeah.
So
I love xeriscape. Love it. I'm thinking about converting my front yard flower bed to xeriscape, honestly.
Mark says he has used plants for security also. For instance, using thorny bushes or hedges to keep people from, coming through the thorns, maybe like an agarita or something with thorns on it. So,
Yeah. Cholla cactus, or I want to say cholla cactus. They call that jumping cactus too. Those are very prickly.
Leatherleaf
Um,
mahonias.
yeah. Needlepoint hollies, cactus pads, the ones that have spines all over it. You know, my brother did that too. They had some break-ins in their neighborhood a long time ago, and he purposefully put some cacti right underneath the windows to discourage people from trying to crawl in.
Okay. What are your recommendations for reworking an older zero lot front yard landscape with permanent beds? They don't want to change the bed or the edging, but to start to put in new native plants that are under large trees.
Okay. Um, I would start off by looking at Native Plant Society of Texas website, npsot.org. I forgot to mention this earlier, but they have a huge plant list, trees, shrubs, ground covers. Some of them are harder to find sometimes, but you can go to a lot of the mom and pop nurseries, and find them. Just Google native plant nurseries in the area and you can find them. Um, what I would do is, if the plant isn't invasive, you know, a lot of nandinas like the domestica, you want to get rid of things like that because, and privet, a lot of people are still using those, but they're very invasive to our natural areas because they overpopulate. Birds will come and eat the seeds, drop their poop in these areas. And those plants just thrive here under our conditions. They don't belong here. And then they shade out and compete for resources like water and kill off all of our native plants. So we want to get rid of those. But if you have some other things like dwarf yaupons, you saw that picture where we redid a person's landscape and they wanted to keep the good plants that they had that were healthy and not a threat to the environment. So we kept their dwarf yaupons and it worked well, you know, with the landscape. We just cleaned everything up. If you've got Bermuda or any grass that has infiltrated into your flower beds and you're wanting to kind of redo that area, scrape up everything that you can, mow it down, or use your edge trimmer and put down a bunch of boxes, you know, flatten out boxes. That's what lasagna gardening is, or sheet mulching. But don't leave it like that. You're going to put mulch, 3 inches of mulch right on top of that. So you're basically suffocating out all the weeds and the grass and giving it time. It takes about a year for all that invasive grass to go away, but you know, keep an eye on it and you'll eventually get there. Because if you just break off the grass on top, the roots remain. So you're essentially composting and getting rid of that nuisance grass. I kind of assumed that was the issue you have. I'm not sure what your issue was, but I would keep, just because plants are so expensive now, I would keep the good things and make room for new additions.
Okay.
And yes, always plant native if you can.
Any suggestions on how to incorporate fruit trees into your landscape?
Fruit trees?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, you need to have a pretty good sized yard for those. Hopefully you do, so you don't have big oaks or anything overshadowing them because they're going to need a lot of sun. One thing I try to warn people about with fruit trees is you're probably going to have more animals, you know, birds, squirrels, and such, fruit falling down. You definitely don't want to put it next to a patio or anything like that because it can get a little messy. I like to plant fruit trees away from the house as much as possible because of that. We do have there's a good, or I believe there's a good one. I can't recommend it because it's just one, but Google some good vendors for fruit trees. You definitely don't want to buy just from any big box store because it might not be a variety that does well here. So, you know, I would do some research on that, see what does really well in North Texas. The Texas A&M University website will give you good information on what kind of grapevines, what kind of peaches, what kind of apples do really well here. So you can also start there.
Okay. Lydia said she doesn't have any questions, but she thought your presentation was fabulous.
Thank
It's
you.
well illustrated and appropriately sequential. And she
Thank you
said,
so
thanks
much.
again from Australia, by the way.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank
yeah.
you for listening in.
Yes. Donna says, great presentation.
Thank
Fred
you.
says there are beautiful xeriscape plants that can be used. Any ideas for sloping a riverbank edge?
Good question on that. You know, I'm not quite sure on that. I guess you would want to put in something that has a good root system that would help prevent erosion. One plant that comes to mind is um, frog fruit if it's a sunny area, but that even grows for me in the shade. Real dense coverage if you're wanting something like that.
Yeah, the horse herbert
That's a
might work
native.
too.
Horse herb,
Yeah.
yeah. Mhm.
And of course, the liripe and mondo grasses at work. It depends on how much they've got there.
Yeah. Yeah, check out those websites. I told you guys about Texas Smartscape and the Texas A&M website, along with npsot.org. You will see many ground covers listed.
What design advice or considerations do you have for pie-shaped cul-de-sac lots located at the side of a circle?
Pie shaped, okay. I don't
It's
know. It's
kind of
hard.
rounded at the cul-de-sac and your
Uh-huh.
lots kind of shaped kind of different.
Okay. It's hard to visualize without seeing it, but if it's is it some is it something that people can drive around, or is it just if
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, I think
okay?
that's what they're talking about.
Okay. Then if it's something that it's a wraparound where you can drive all around it, you might want to put something tall in the very center and have things kind of tiered as they're around the edge. Maybe like a single specimen in the middle, and then some medium-sized shrubs all around it, and then some shorter guys all around the edge.
Okay. Someone else says, love the presentation. As a native plant enthusiast, it was great. And I think we have some people that raise their hands too.
Okay.
Let me see if we can unmute them and let them. Let's see. Sharon, you want to unmute yourself so you can ask your question? Sharon, you there?
She was unmuted.
Yeah, she was for a second, but
Can you hear me?
yes,
Yes.
yes.
Oh, this was such a wonderful, wonderful presentation. That's
Thank
pretty much
you.
all I wanted to say is I just thoroughly enjoyed it.
Thank you, Sharon. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you covered everything. You did a wonderful job.
Thank you so much. Yeah, if you guys have any questions after this is over, don't forget 884-1944. Give us a call. Master Gardener will help answer your question. And if that Master Gardener can't answer your question, we've got the horticulture extension agent that can help us with your question, or we can reach out to Texas A&M University and get an answer for you. I had a student ask a question about some weird disease that was going on under the bark, and one of the pathologists helped us out, and I passed on the information. It was something that I've never seen before, and he said it's blah 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 blah. Okay, thank you. So we helped out the person. So give us a call. We are here to help you out.
Anthony is from New York, where it is 30 degrees with snow on the ground. He said, your talk makes me yearn for next spring already.
Good. I don't miss snow. I like looking at it. I lived in South Korea for 5 years, and it was cold in the wintertime. And I just remember how painful my fingers were playing in the snow.
Um, Is there a specific website for Master Gardener? I'm not sure.
Yes, yes. Our Tarrant County Master Gardening Association website
Yes,
is
yes, that's what she's talking about.
okay, it's TCMGA, so it stands for Tarrant County Master Gardener Association, TCMGA.org, O-R-G. We list classes that you can sign up for, similar to this one. Also, we advertised SaveTarrantWater.com earlier. Don't forget to sign up for your sprinkler evaluation. It's free to see if it's running efficiently. They will also give you helpful advice on how to lower your water bill and be more efficient. And they also offer a lot of classes just like this one.
She says, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, that's all I see.
All right.
Oh, wait a minute. Here's another one, looks like. No, there's a thank you. Wendy says, just a suggestion, cardboard sheet mulching kills the soil life. Is that true?
No, there's still oxygen, air going underneath there. If you are familiar with composting, it's basically composting. Now, if you put a black sheet, a lot of people like to use like a black trash bag or any kind of black tarp. That can kill important microbes in the soil because of the heat. It's basically cooking. Composting actually is beneficial to microbes. Of course, at a certain heat level, it can kill some, but I've never had any issues with it. My half-acre yard, my lot, that's how I've created all of my flower beds, all around the whole perimeter, done it in other people's yards. If anything, it actually helps the plants that are already there when you do it around existing trees and such. You don't want to put the cardboard against any plants. You want to back it away. Don't let it touch the tree bark or anything like that, maybe 6 inches away. But it actually preserves moisture in the summertime. And you end up getting a lot of worms down the line because they like it too. And they help to break down that cardboard and incorporate it into the soil with your decaying grass. So if anything, you are actually composting. So you're not hurting. You're actually kind of putting that cardboard back into, cardboard is from trees. So you're putting that back into your soil and amending your soil in a way. But yeah, I know what you mean. A lot of people, if they have soil-borne diseases and stuff, they will put black tarp on top of the soil to try to use heat to kill off what's going on, a pathogen that's in the soil. But in this situation, you're just using cardboard. Rain can get underneath it. Oxygen can get underneath it.
Okay. And she said a heavy layer of leaves will build your soil and kill the unwanted vegetation. They'd have to be pretty thick, though, wouldn't they?
It would, yeah. I've actually used when I end up with a bunch of leaves. Sometimes I'll ask my neighbors with the big deciduous oaks. I'll say, "Can I have your brown bag?" Because the city makes you put them in brown bags, and I will lasagna garden and just dump a lot of those on there as my first layer, and then just put mulch right on top. But a lot of times with just leaves, wind will blow them away, but it makes great compost.
Yes, it does. Okay. That's all I see, Loretta.
Okay. Well, thank you for having
wait a
me.
minute. Sharon wants to know, do you ever use layers of newspaper instead of cardboard?
Yes, I have. It just takes so much, and it's so hard to find newspaper these days. I will use them in a pinch. Sometimes in a flower bed, you'll have Bermuda sneak in. No matter what you do, it'll sneak underneath the edging and make its way in. And you try to pull it up, but you know that the root is still underneath. So what I'll do is if I have some, junk mail, which is newspaper material, I'll save that and I'll actually put that, I'll rip up the grass and put that right on top and then put mulch right on top so you don't see the paper. So I will do that. I also, if I can get my hands on newspaper, I will use it in little corners of my lasagna gardening, my new flower beds, because it's easy to bend. But I will use probably like 20 sheets of it. It has to be pretty thick. Cardboard is, way thicker, but I do use that too.
Okay. Well, I think that was the last one.
Okay.
So thanks everybody for coming to